Evil has a problem. It cannot last. It's like a parasite that eventually kills its own host. It thrives only by feeding off what is good, twisting truth, corrupting love, mocking justice. But in doing so, it reveals its weakness. It has no life of its own. It is always temporary. The prophets of Israel understood this. Isaiah painted a vision of a world where swords are beaten into plowshares, where nations no longer learn war. That is not just poetry. It is a declaration that evil has an expiration date. It may roar today, it may appear to win battles, but it cannot write the final chapter. Now let's sit with the hard part. What about when evil takes its cruelest form? Murder, when one human being snuffs out the life of another? That is the shattering of the divine image, the ultimate act of rebellion. In Jewish thought, the blood of the innocent cries out from the ground, just as Abel's blood did. The Talmud says anyone who destroys a single life is as if they destroyed an entire world. Murder is not just an act against one. It is an act against all humanity, against God Himself. And yet, here is where we wrestle. Sometimes murderers walk free. Sometimes oppressors hold power. Sometimes the innocent suffer while the guilty seem to prosper. This is where the problem of evil presses deepest into our souls. Where is justice? Where is God? The sages never ran from that question. They taught that justice is layered. There is human justice, which must be pursued here and now, courts, laws, accountability. But when human justice fails, divine justice remains. No deed is hidden, no blood goes unanswered. God sees, God remembers, and God will repay. Christians echo this too. Paul wrote in Romans 12, "Do not take revenge, my friends, for it is written, 'Vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord.'" That doesn't erase our responsibility to act against evil here, but it reminds us that God has the final word. Evil may mock, but it does not get the last laugh. Here's what this means for us. We cannot measure evil without good. That is how we know murder is wrong, because life is sacred. That is how we know oppression is evil, because justice is beautiful. Good defines evil, and evil proves itself parasitic by attacking what is good. So what do? First, we refuse to applaud evil, to cheer cruelty, to delight in violence, to laugh at corruption. That is to join hands with the destroyer. Jewish thought says, applause for evil is worse than silence because it nurtures corruption in the heart. Second, we fight evil with good, not passively, but with every act of justice, compassion, and truth-telling. Every time you honor life instead of mocking it, every time you lift the weak instead of trampling them, you are proclaiming that evil's days are numbered. Let me say this clearly. Justice will be served. Not always in our timing, not always in the way we imagine, but always in God's. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why does evil seem to thrive? These are not easy questions. My teachers wrestled with them too. But they would remind me of two things. One, the good is not defeated, it is tested. A flame may flicker in the wind, but it does not go out. Your commitment to goodness may be challenged, but it is not broken. Two, our vision is limited. We cannot see the whole picture. Job could not see God moving his pieces on the chessboard. We cannot fathom all that God knows. All we can do is align ourselves with what is right, speak up for those being harmed, pursue healing, and leave the rest to the one who sees all. That doesn't mean passivity. It means responsible action coupled with the understanding that there are forces beyond our comprehension working toward the ultimate triumph of good. The sages taught that the world is sustained by three pillars: the righteous, Torah, and the deeds of loving kindness. You have the power, through your actions, big and small, to uphold the world. So where do we find the strength to keep going, to keep acting justly? The same place we find the strength to live each day. Love. Love for ourselves, Love for our neighbors, love for the stranger, love for the vulnerable. Love is not a feeling, it is a commitment. It is a decision. It is a verb. And love compels us to repair, to rebuild, to reconcile. Loving kindness is at the heart of our tradition. It is the wellspring that enables us to endure. It gives us the energy to fight for justice, to care for the sick, to welcome the stranger. In the face of hatred, we choose love. In the face of violence, we choose reconciliation. In the face of fear, we choose trust. When Pharaoh sought to snuff out the flame of Israel, Moses stood before him and said, "Let my people go so they can worship me, their God. Even if you refuse, I will do the same." Exodus 10:3. This was not naivete. This was not a magical hope. This was profound faith in the God who had already proven faithful. Over and over again, love was not blind to the oppression and suffering of Israel, but it refused to surrender to despair. This week, we read the heartbreaking story of a father whose son was killed in battle. He went to bury his child and found another father digging a grave for his son who died on the same day. The first father asked, "How can you still have the strength to dig a grave after losing a child?" The other replied, "If I stopped grieving, my son would die twice." Grief and loss are part of the human experience, but giving in to despair would be a second loss. Our tradition teaches us to feel our feelings, to grieve, to cry, to be angry, but not to stay there. Not to make a home in despair, not to become bitter, cynical, or jaded. For that would mean giving up hope. And hope is essential. Hope sustains us when evil seems to win. Hope allows us to keep fighting for a better world, for a world where evil will not have the last laugh. But how do we keep that hope alive, not just for ourselves, but for our children and their children? By passing down stories. Stories of courage, of hope, of redemption. Stories of how even in the darkest moments light broke through. Stories of how even in the face of overwhelming odds, good triumphed over evil. These stories are not fairy tales. They are historical accounts. They are acts of remembrance, and they are calls to action. Each one of us can add our names to the chain of storytellers, continuing the narrative that began with creation and will culminate in a world transformed. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel said, "Our world is full of holes, aching voids where love, peace, and justice should be. Our task is not to lament the absence of goodness, but to keep filling the world with goodness until the absence is filled." That's a call to action. As individuals and as a community, we must fill the world with goodness. We do this by acting justly, loving mercy, and walking humbly with God. We do this by telling the stories of our ancestors and adding our own stories to the tapestry of hope. We do this by cherishing life, by defending the vulnerable, by pursuing peace. This is our calling. This is our opportunity to change the world, to tilt the scales towards good, to ensure that evil does not have the last laugh. Comment below. How will you fill the world with goodness this week? And be sure to like, comment, and follow for more.